The book of Deuteronomy is to do with the law, the giving of the law, and it follows, of course, the book of Exodus. The law has been given to the Israelites in the wilderness now that they've broken free of their bondage in Egypt. They've been delivered from the captivity under Pharaoh and the slavery that they were subjected to. And now they're free and they're on their journey to the promised land. And that's an Old Testament powerful image for us for the idea of being broken from the bondage of sin through the waters of the Red Sea in their case, but through the waters of baptism in our case. And now we are free to live life in Christ, and we're on our journey in the same way to the promised land. And the wilderness experience for them, which they found tough going, is akin to our wilderness experience of our Lenten journey of prayer, fasting and almsgiving, again on the same journey to the glory of Christ risen from the dead. And so the Lord has given the people this law to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul and all our might, and our neighbour as ourselves. And there's no other peoples on the earth that has such a law, because it's given by God himself. Whatever other race or tribe or nation have their own customs or practices, let's say, or traditions, nothing compares or can compare with the laws given by God himself to us and bestowed through, in this case through Moses, to the people. But Moses again is only a type. He's foreshadowing an Old Testament figure that in a certain way prefigures the coming of Christ. The Christ fulfills the law and the prophets as we see in the Gospel reading. So he fulfills what was begun in Moses, what was begun in Abraham, in Jeremiah, Isaiah. Lists them all off, the figures of the law and the prophets. And this law, now as it were, has risen to an altogether new standard and a new level, in the sense that it is Christ who is the fulfillment of it, and it's to him that we look, even upon the cross, as the fulfillment of all law and all prophecy. That no longer is it just love of God with all our heart and all our minds and all our souls and all our strength. No longer is it loving my neighbour as myself. It is a new command that has fulfilled the old covenant. It is now the new covenant in his blood. Love now, Jesus says, as I have loved you. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life. So we've moved beyond even just the 10 Commandments and the Old Covenant, and we see that this cup that the Lord is drinking, that James and John would agree to drink also, is ours to participate in too, more in a figurative way, but sometimes in a very real way, to die, as it were, to self in order to rise to new life in Christ. And hence that meaning there, he hasn't abolished what has gone before, not by any means. The 10 Commandments still stand, they're still there. But now in Christ we have an altogether different law that embraces, it's a kingdom now, it's a way of life, it's a way of living. And in the imparting of this law, so to speak, or this way of life, is the way into now living in that kingdom, here and now. And teaching others not to do so bears with it a severe judgment too. So we're called to live this way, but we do so in trust because it's Christ that we're following. So he is the one who fulfills the law and the prophets, and it is in him that we look to understand how it is we are to live these new commandments.